All right, today's demo is how to use this bullshit. All right, but before we do, let's go to Joe. Now, Joe, I will say that submitting late is usually a no-no. So if you're not going to be in class on time, that's fine. But you should definitely submit before the class. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I slept in. I was hoping to originally wake up earlier in the morning to work on it a little bit more.
No, I get it. And I'm just giving you a heads up for the future because if this happens, and for anyone else, if this happens, then I just won't take the work. The only reason why is I don't want to give unfair advantage in terms of submission. I want to kind of also simulate. You got to turn in the work before the class starts, as if it's like a real deadline. But if for whatever reason, like you feel like you're not gonna show up in class, whatever, you can always just submit, and then I'll still review it regardless if you're here or not.
Sorry about
that. Yeah, this is a pretty. You weren't here for the beginning of the class, so you're gonna have to watch back later. But essentially, this is pretty good. This is exactly what I was hoping to see in terms of iteration. You should watch Nathan's and Dylan's critique when I reviewed for them, because essentially what I'm asking is that you do the rest of the characters that you have. I think you get like a couple more that need iterations. Like this, like you have these three right here, but you might have two more that you have to do. Do those characters, and then pick one from each to take to a more refined render. Okay. What were you gonna say? You were gonna say something?
Sorry, earlier when you were giving a critique to, I believe it was Alex. I realized I made a mistake with you mentioned originally 2 from the last round and 4 variations of that. For some reason, I picked 3 and
yeah. It's okay. But basically, finish all the characters so they all have iterations.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how many you had. I think you might have 4 total. I forget. But like whatever those are, like for instance, let's say you have like these 2 others.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm sorry, this last one. So you'd have like 1, 2, 3. You know? Wait, why did I skip this one? 3, 4. Right? And then you would pick your favorite amongst them, right? And then you're going to render those out. Yeah, okay. So it's basically 2 pages. I'm expecting the finished version of the iterations and then the rendered versions of them for next class. Okay. But like I said, once the video is uploaded and for you to rewatch, you should watch it again from the beginning so you can kind of see what I talked about. So I don't have to repeat myself. Yeah, we'll do. And then, but you did good, man. I think these are great. Also, one thing that I will say that I didn't say with Dylan and Nathan specifically is that if you guys want to like mix and match like elements of your design, like let's say like the helmet of this guy or the hat of this person and then the legs of this person, like you can Frankenstein them. It doesn't have to be that one specific one from top to bottom, okay? But basically, you are picking the best features of all of them to make one Frankenstein version, okay? Sound good? All right, cool. But that's your homework. So finish the last set of characters or last character set, and then do a more refined painting of each, okay? These are pretty good. The next stage, we're going to try to really fix whatever problems may still be lingering, okay, for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, the part that's the least fun takes the longest, unfortunately, which is super rendering. But anyway, cool. Good work, though. It is a good submission, but like I said, next time try to submit it earlier, so that way it'd be all good. All right, moving on. We're moving on to Alfredo. So Alfredo, I was waiting for you, but it's clear to me you're not showing up, so we're just going to go ahead and review your work. So I think we were talking about doing some more studies so that way you can get better at doing this design stuff. I think this is pretty much what I expected. It's just funny, you got a little titty sticking out. I think your values are questionable, but we can work on those in the next round. So what I want you to do is take a look at all of the characters you've done thus far. So you have these 5. You have like the 20 I think you did for last class. So look at all of the designs. Pick upwards of 4 designs that you like, and it's time to render them as best as you can. Okay, we're going to focus on just rendering, and then we're going to add more iterative design on them after the fact, because these are a little more contemporary. It's actually not too challenging to do so. So imagine that you pick this one, and then 2 others from the other set of characters, whatever you worked on. And now we're going to sit down and just start to render them and make them look a lot more finished. Okay? So here, I'm going to write it down for you just so you get it. At Alfredo. Good work. Good work. So the next step for you is to pick 4 character designs out of all the ones you've done so far. 25, I believe, and begin to paint them at the best of your abilities. Sorry, we missed you in class, and talk soon. All right, cool. But overall, Alfredo did a pretty good job. Unfortunately, you're not here because I would love to ask you like how it went, how it felt when you were working on these studies, so we can talk about it more or elaborate further. But it looks like the studies did pretty good. I think that you should focus on studying more because it will help you ultimately. So maybe when you're working on these 4 designs, before you do, you should maybe spend like a day just studying more shapes and patterns and rendering stuff, and then approach your characters and do the 1 hour on each character approach that I talked about earlier, and you should be okay. Cool. And so like I said, we're going to jump right into the Q&A aspect of the class. So begin to ask questions right now. So I'm going to see if I can turn this monstrosity. Oh, what? Why was it 256? What the? What is this about? Download is not commonly downloaded and may be dangerous. Oh, never mind. Let's not do that. As much as I like to trust it, this random ass website, I'm not going to. Yeah, we'll just deal with this like low resolution image. It's okay. Photoshop has some really good enlargement algorithms, anyways. I hear somebody about to ask a question. Dylan, is that you?
Yeah, I was just looking because Andrea's asked the same question that I was going to ask. You said something about Love, Death, and Robots that you worked on. Which one was it that you worked on?
The Greta. The one with Greta.
Which one was that?
It's when they're like stranded in space.
Oh, right.
And then there's like a twist at the end.
Yeah.
I designed that twist.
That's awesome. I thought that might have been the one that you did. That one was cool.
Yeah. I had a lot of friends text me. They're like, bitch, I know what you did. And I was like, yeah, that was me.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was cool. I only worked on it for like a week or maybe a little bit more than that, but essentially it was just like a few, it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just was, it was just funny because I didn't know I was working on that. I just kind of like, they just approached me and said, hey, you know, we like your work. We want you to work on this film. What do you think? And I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And it was like a short film. It's going to be a digital short And I was down the whole time. I was like, yeah, sounds cool. And it's funny because, like I said, I had no idea what it was going to be about, but I'm very happy that I was a part of it because it turned out great. Alrighty, so I think from here, what I'm going to do is some Photoshop trickery. I'm going to turn this into like an epic environment, and then see what people's reaction is after the fact. But this is like some old school fucking Photoshop, bros.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's funny, man. Like about a year ago, I had some students, and we were talking about, and it's funny because Alfredo's not here again, but this is like, this is exactly to the point again that I was trying to explain to him. Remember about like just not doing stuff that is easily replaceable, whatever, or doable. But actually, I was talking to some students a year or so ago, maybe 2 years almost. And the point I was making to them was about the same proposition of like automation. And I was trying to explain to them that like concept art is probably the last real career that will last in our industry, entertainment industry. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of things will be easily replaceable. Like I even tell people like photo bashing is just not like good strats. Like you should oh, my phone's going off again. You should definitely like learn how to do all sorts of cool stuff because eventually everything could be done by machine, especially like 3D stuff. You know, my good friend, you talking about this, and he doesn't want to accept it. He hates the idea that that his job will be replaced. And I'm like, bro, your job's like definitely going to be replaced. And it was like specifically like a 3D modeler, and the reason why I say that is because I will eventually be able to make 3D models. You know, me, the concept artist, without any a barrier to entry. Does that make sense? So the hardest part about making a character model is all the technical stuff like retopologizing, unwrapping, you know,
yeah,
the boring shit, right? And a lot of the reason why or you know 3D modelers are valued is because they can do all of this amazing stuff. You know, like it's really technical. But I mean, a lot of those technical things are starting to become what you call it, replaced by a machine. You know, and so it's a matter of it's just a matter of time. Dude, this is fucking dope, man. That kind of environment, it looks real. Now I know it's like really janky, but like from afar, it looks pretty good. I'll be able to make this come together too pretty quickly. I have some tricks. So this is a great example. So that sketch that I did of this environment, right? Now, granted, this is like a realistic environment, so I'm gonna have to do something to make it a little bit cooler. I will. But I mean, this is just the infancy of this tool, right? So eventually, it's gonna get even better, right? And it's gonna be real fucking crazy. And when that craziness hits the fan, it's gonna be dope. I can't wait. I remember about like 7 or 8 years ago, I made the same comment about like, hey, you know, it's really important to understand the fundamentals. And if you don't understand the fundamentals, you're going to be screwed. And I remember making a point about like one day there's going to be such good tools because everybody complains about tools. They're like, oh, do you use ZBrush or you photo bashing, whatever, right? There's always something that everyone's fucking complaining about. Everyone fucking complains about everything. It pisses me off, man. Like this, everyone's mad about every single goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And it's stupid. It's like not constructive. Like it's really easy to hate on everything, right? It's the easiest thing to do. I was watching this Kevin Hart, Joe Rogan podcast, and they made a comment that I laughed, like literally laughed out loud. He's like, "Do you think Michael Jordan leaves YouTube comments?" And I was like, "Fucking rolling, dude." And you guys are laughing for the same reason, because why? He doesn't have time to be like fucking trolling. He's fucking dunking on fools. You know what I mean? You think like LeBron is like on YouTube, like bashing on fools? No, right? Like these guys are doing stuff, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so fucking great, that's perfect." And I was laughing. I thought that was hilarious. That's what happens when you get two comedians who are really highly successful talking. They just say some funny shit like that. But but I was thinking about like all that stuff even before, like I always tell students, like, don't complain, don't focus on the tools, focus on the skill, because eventually what's going to happen is that the tools are going to get so good, right, that like whatever I'm thinking, it will just be made.
Yeah.
Like if I like want to draw a rabbit, I just think about rabbit, and then I rabbit, and then bam, a rabbit is made. The AI makes a rabbit, right? There's already a AI that can do that. Like you type in bird and it just makes a bird, you know? And so then if you don't know what the hell a thing looks like, then you won't be able to make it. I just made that joke, right? So like every time you like try to draw a rabbit from your mind's eye, it'll be like this abomination because you actually don't know what a rabbit looks like. So it's best to learn how to draw a rabbit, like learn it so that way you can replicate it. That was kind of the premise of what I'm getting across here. And now it's getting closer and closer to that reality that I was just hypothetically talking about. Closer than I expected. I was expecting a couple more years, but whatever.
What do you think then about the, Shadi Safadi? He's like all about the photo bash technique, and like do you think that he's self-aware enough to realize that this is what's happening? Or are they like trying to shepherd that in, or is he just like going down the technical rabbit hole?
Yeah, I think he came in at the time where like he's not wrong, but he's starting to become more wrong, and he's also a good painter, so it's kind of like a lie to tell people to just only get really good at photo bashing and shit.
Yeah.
Because you'll see this happen amongst students, and it's really bad, and it's really bad education, to be honest, where they will see a tutorial and then they'll just do the tutorial, and then like you'll see nothing but that kind of artwork on ArtStation, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not just students, professionals are doing this too. Let me see if I gotta sign in.
When John did that Learn Squared thing, I saw a bunch of people starting to do the same. Like they all took the class.
Yeah, I had the same problem as a teacher when I first started teaching. Like I'll do a thing, and then a lot of my students would just paint just like me, and I realized that's not good because I don't want them to paint just like me. I want them to be better than me. And so for instance, like this is a professional artist here, right? And this is amazing. But this is what we saw in a tutorial, right? This is what Jama did this stuff, right? In fact, I think he works with Jama. That's probably why. But what he was able to do was to find ways to hopefully make it his own, right? But it's still kind of like what we've seen, right? I like these specifically not because they're dissimilar. I like them for different reasons. Remember, I was talking earlier about like finding appreciation in good work. Like it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, this is fucking. We've seen this type of fucking sci-fi rovers, dude. I'm doing it too, man. I'm one of my games, right? And it's like, okay, but what can we do differently, right? that's also on my mind. It's not just about like what is cool, right, and what is quality, but it's also important to me like what can I do to get better and make different artwork, right? And so I look at things that are clearly really good and pretty similar, but then I find artwork like this that I would say quality wise, like Tyler's good artist, but in terms of quality, this isn't that good, right? It's really, you can really see the construction of the ZBrush model, right?
Mhm.
But it's fucking cool, man. It's like a really cool concept. It's such a random and such a crazy assortment of shapes and colors that I really appreciate it for that, you know? And clearly a lot of people do too. I'm not the only one, you know? But like if we're looking at this for as a quality model, right? No, wait, right? If we want to find quality 3D models, this is real, by the way. This is not even 3D. You know,
Wow.
there's other examples, right? There's other examples of quality. You know,
Guy has butthole eyes.
you know, other examples of quality. But this is, you know, this is something I've seen before. So I look at things. I like I said, everybody complains. So some people will look at an image like this and they, oh, this is actually pretty unique. It's also got like butthole eyeballs. But someone will look at like an image like that and find something to hate because it's so impressive that they're like, well, this is what's wrong with it, right?
Totally.
Or maybe this is not as good, so they'll focus on that. But I actually focus on what I like about it rather than what I don't like about it. You know? And I think if you do that, you'll be better off. Like find what you like about someone's artwork, based off of your gut reaction, right? Rather than feeling insecure and inadequate, you know? And so the problem that I found with like Shadi's kind of approach is he's not wrong and he's not right, but he speaks as if he's like 100% right, and that's problematic. And the reason why it's problematic again is because students will listen to that, take it seriously, because Shadi is an established concept artist, you know. One there was a thing at IFCC where one of my students was like, he came to me and he was like, dude, I'm fucking confused as shit, right? And this is at GDC. We're both there, or not sorry, GDC, IFCC in Croatia, and he was like, bro, like, okay, I went to Shadi's talk, and it was really good and really awesome, and he talked about a lot of cool stuff. But then he was like talking about like you should only photo bash, you should always use DAS 3D. Like if you're painting shit, you're stupid. Whatever. Like he was pretty hardcore. Like you're fucking up. He did like a GDC talk too. Shadi is like the death of concept art or some bullshit. anyway, um, and Shadi's a friend of mine, so I'm not saying this to like talk shit. I'm just like actually just giving you my objective opinion, because what ends up happening is people take that as like literal, and so they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm fucking up, right? And then the same student went and listened to Marko Djurdjevic.
Oh yeah.
And Marko Djurdjevic was like, bitch, if you photo bash, you suck. Right? Complete opposite.
Yeah.
And my student was like, what? You know? And he was super confused. He's like, I don't get it. Because he also respects Marko Djurdjevic, right? As he should. Marko is a great illustrator and concept artist, right? And I said to him what I just said to you. They're both wrong and they're both right. Okay? And I explained to him why they're both wrong. Because one person exists and so does the other. So the person who paints almost everything exists. It's Marko Djurdjevic. And he has his own company, right? And it's super successful. And most of the artists there tend to paint. And Marko Djurdjevic is wrong because Shadi exists.
Yeah.
And he has his own studio. So I tell my students all the time, like, so the truth is somewhere in between, isn't it? Right? So for instance, like of course you should learn tools because tools are tools. They're helpful, right? Is it easier to paint in Photoshop than it is to paint with color pencils? Absolutely, dude. You know? And that's kind of the big takeaway here, isn't it? Is that you shouldn't focus on what you call it, the
tools.
The tools only, right? Because the tools are helpful, and you should never discount that helpfulness, but they're not the only part of the equation, because the tools will constantly evolve. Because if you're heavily tool reliant, guess what? Other people will be able to acquire those same tools, right?
Mhm.
And if you don't have anything, to offer outside of what the tools can provide, then you're really out of luck, aren't you? You know? And a lot of times people don't recognize that that's a thing. And so that's where Marko Djurdjevic is right, because like if you're able to paint and draw, then it's always going to be conducive. I was talking to my friend, we were having a conversation and about this very thing, and I was telling him, I was like, a lot of people don't realize that painting is actually faster, like just being able to just paint something accurately, right, is actually faster than using any kind of tool, right? In almost all cases, like if you can just master the skills of painting, you could pretty much do most things. It's pretty cool, you know. Like even though I did this like mountain range and all that stuff, but if I like just knew the fundamentals of how to paint that mountain like really fast, right?
Mhm.
I wouldn't have to do this approach, wouldn't I? Just do it.
Yeah, I was watching
That's,
Bob Ross the other day, and he's like that, where he just like, all right, we're gonna just blast this in, and like, after a few minutes, you're like, I don't know, Bob, and then he like does something, and you're like, holy shit, this just like snapped into place. It's so amazing.
yeah, Bob Ross is a great example of that, absolutely. And that's my point, is that people focus in on the tools, but it's like Bob Ross is a great example of like, no, like someone who can like master the tool and has like tremendous skill, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that I still am trying to figure out for myself even. Anyway, so now I'm trying to paint this like epic landscape, but because I have some a reasonable understanding of like how to paint environments, it's not turning out like garbage. Like it came from that to this. I mean, let's be honest, it came from this fucking thing. Right? I should probably save this so that way I can kind of show the before and after.
So I have a question about AI.
The school, it's garbage. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding that it's garbage. It is garbage, but I'm kidding.
Not the school.
Yeah, I'm kidding about that's what you were referring to.
Okay. So what are you saying about? Are you saying that we should learn design and stuff like that to save us from getting our jobs steal from the robots?
Yeah, it's already happening. Like people don't recognize that automate. Like people think of like robots, like fucking what you call it, like do like Terminator, you know.
Yeah.
It's already happening in the sense that there's already tools that automate a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
You just don't recognize that they're right. For instance, Photoshop has content aware tools, and it has like correctional filters. Like those things exist. People using like DAS 3D and all that stuff. That is automation.
Yeah.
It's just disguised in like a really helpful tool, but it's automated. It is a machine doing a job that was once someone else's job, right? Like a good example of this. There used to be a person who would like knock on your window to wake you up in the morning because they didn't have alarm clocks. That was like a job. You see my point? And we laugh at like, why would someone do that? Like, Well, that's kind of what's happening now. Like eventually people are gonna be like, why did you ever start a sketch from scratch? You know,
Yeah.
like
But so I
why
agree
don't you
with
just
you.
use this design algorithm to start a sketch for you? What's the point of sketching it
Mm.
out? And
Yeah.
when that question will come up, it will almost always be right. Right. And it'll only be like old fogies like me that'd be like, back in my day, we used to actually try to draw sketches, you know?
Yeah.
This is what I
But
was
so
telling oh sorry, let me make this last point. This is what I was telling Alfredo is that if you're just drawing regular people, dude, like that's not valuable. Like now. There was a time, maybe like 5 years ago, that I would not discourage that, right? I would have been like, yeah, go for it, man. Because that was definitely a job. You know, someone still needed to like help kind of like allocate a lot of the aesthetic of like a Victorian era type of thing, you know?
mm.
Not anymore though. Not anymore. Sorry. So what were you gonna say?
uh, so I agree with you with all that you're saying, and but it sounds like you mean that pretty much that design and stuff like that is gonna save us, because I feel like I'm of the opinion that they will take that job too.
Oh yeah,
That
absolutely. It's just the
so
last one to
basically,
go.
yeah,
I'm not saying that it's not going to go. I'm saying it's just the last one to go. And hopefully
yeah,
by that time, the robots will be completely our servants. You know, and
mm.
it would be like a Wall-E, where there would be no need for a job. We would solve world hunger and poverty through automation. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
because if we could solve complicated solutions of like design and human interaction in that way, it would also mean that we could probably solve problems. The only reason why that might not work out is because people are stupid. And let me explain. It's not that we're stupid. We're just no. It's definitely we're stupid. We're very primal. Let me give you a good example of this. So, if I were to say to you that there were two people on, or there's two groups of people on a train track, right, on different parts of different train tracks, and one group is like a group of five, okay, 5 people, and on the other group is a group of two, and you have to push a button, and one of the tracks will switch over, and then those group of people die. Would you rather let the 2 people die or let the 5 people die?
it's pretty much impossible to answer, but I would take the 5, I guess.
You take the 5 people to die, not the 2?
No, they
No,
survive.
the 5 people to survive. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is objectively what most people would say, right? It's a sum of like the least casualties. Got it? Like I get it. Most people will say this. Now this is where people are stupid. Now, what if those 2 people was like your close family members, and the other people, 5 other people, were complete strangers? Now, what do you do? So the it's the same equation. The only difference is now the 2 people that you would have killed before is like your mom and dad, right? Versus the
yeah.
5. Now, this is where people are like, nah, of course I'll let the 5 people die. You know, most people will say this, including myself. I'm not saying that everyone else is stupid. I'm saying I'm stupid too. You know, because of these types of this type of thought process, it would prevent us from like for instance, like when we have an AI create like an algorithm to how to make like write a movie like screenplay, right? We're like, whatever, that's cool. Like, yeah, sure, some people's jobs will be taken, but we're like, whatever, robots. If robots are making better stories, fucking let's do it. You know?
Mm.
But if you take that same kind of algorithm and say, okay, well, now figure out how to organize, or how like take all of these statistical data and try to organize uh, a way or a solution that could potentially solve world hunger and all these other things. And then that's when people start to say, oh my gosh, that's like really incredibly unethical. Like you can't be doing that. And again, it wouldn't be that we would act on that model. We would just have the algorithm do it, and we will look at it and see what the conclusions were, and then recalibrate the algorithm to keep doing that until we see one that seems pretty ethical, right? Let me give you another good example. Imagine we make smart cars that are like self-driving and are badass, right? They're pretty efficient. Okay. And the self-driving car has to make the choice that we were talking about, the 5 versus the 2, right? And it calculates, and it also takes into factors like of lifespan, the kinds of people that are about to survive, like they're contributing to the society or not. They actually have ways to determine all that stuff, right? Just from facial recognition and all that amazing stuff. The fact that that question is available and people don't like that, right? People don't like that a robot would have to decide that, and it might actually do a better job, right, of deciding who would die, you know. Because we don't like that, we'll just kind of stick with our shitty ass system right now, where millions of people die in car accidents all the time from people that are not making these decisions. They're just super drunk or they're super tired, you know, and because robots can talk to each other, so the amount of accidents will be dramatically reduced, right? Like exponentially lower, you know. But because a robot would eventually kill somebody, it would have to, right? Inevitably, right? Now, fuck that. So we would rather just like keep on doing the way things are and just murder ourselves constantly, you know, at the rate. Another good example, because my friend was like, we should just let the popular opinion rule. I don't get it. And I was like, well, that's actually very dangerous too. Because you're assuming that the popular opinion is always the right opinion.
Yeah.
And I'll give him an example. I was like, think about this. In New York City, they're like, bro, like everyone's dying from diabetes. Like it's growing. Type 2 diabetes is rising in our country or our state. People are drinking way too much fucking soda. You know, maybe that's a contributing factor. People are becoming more obese in our state. We need to like do something about this, right? So they're like, look, we're gonna do this. We're gonna say if you get like a 32 ounce fucking Coca-Cola, which is a lot of Coca-Cola, right? We're going to put an extra cost on that. We're going to put a sugar tax. That's what they call it, right? People lost their goddamn minds, dude. They're like, how dare you tell me how much soda I can drink, you know? And the state of New York is like, bro, but you guys are like out of control. You know, we need to find some sort of deterrent to keep people from doing these incredibly unhealthy habits. And it's like, I'm an adult. I should be able to make the choices I want. It's like, well, it's not just that. What if you're a terrible parent and you're making your kids drink 32 ounces? They're not adults, but you're making adult decisions for them, right? It's one thing if I decided to just freaking drink 32 ounces. I'm already like 35, right? I've made my bed and I'm gonna sleep in it. But to have my kids drink 32 ounces because I'm just like a lazy parent or I don't know any better, that's not my kid's fault. You know what I mean? And so it's a really complicated problem, and it goes back to this idea that like as a whole we're not very smart, are we? You know, collectively we see that there's climate change and we're just like, nah, fuck it. Some people are like, nah, I don't think so. You know, it's like, wait a minute, like this is not smart collectively. And so what I'm trying to say is that like ultimately getting back to this AI proposition is that like I think that, you know, in terms of AI, I think that people will be really adverse to it, right? But it's inevitable. And the greatest deterrent to be adverse to this is to just actually have some sort of monetary skill, right? Something that a machine, like again, machine algorithm would have a hard time figuring out. A good example of something that I'm predicting is going to happen is that you can like basically grab a collection of artwork, throw it into a machine algorithm, and it could basically come up with like a sketch or something for you based off of the artwork. So remember how we were talking about the style problem, Andreas? Like imagine if you just grabbed all your favorite artists, threw it into like a program and say, figure out a style that comes from this, you know? It could potentially do it, you know?
I feel it would be the hardest problem is like to program a certain like topic, because that's every single little thing that you want to design automatically like needs a different engine almost.
Well, no, you could like literally just grab a bunch of images, throw it into a machine, and it will give you something pretty reasonable. The hard part would be then to be able to paint on top of that, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like imagine if I just grabbed all my sketches and said, I want to like design a dog robot, but I don't know how to draw dogs. So I just grab a bunch of dog images throw it into this machine with my own images, and it will come up with a sketch that I might have been able to do if I knew how to draw dogs. And then from there, I just finish it. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that people might not realize is going to happen, but almost certainly is going to happen. And then that's going to be the next thing that people complain about. And that's really sketch because how do you prevent people from just straight up biting other people's styles? And so this is why it's really valuable to be faster than the algorithm, because even if that will take time, right? So if I can still paint faster than that or create things that are more multifaceted, then I'll still have value, right? That's why I started learning how to program in the last few years, specifically because of this problem. I knew that this was going to happen, and I was like, all right, I need to like get good, because you can complain, yeah, sure, like fuck them robots taking our jobs, but it's not too late to try to learn other skills.
So are you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw Andreas. Is that how you say your name? Andreas.
Anders, but it's a bit hard.
Andres.
Yeah.
Andres. So you said you mentioned basic income, so I want to know what AJ thinks about that.
Universal basic income.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm in support of that, 100%.
Do you think we still need money when the robots take over?
Well, it's so funny when the robots take over, bro. Yeah, I don't think so, right? But we need it as we transition to that new world order. You know, we need some sort of like system. The reason why I'm in favor of UBI is specifically because we need a transitional stage, right? It is imperative that we do. Otherwise, we're gonna have some real fucking issues, dude. People who are low skilled, people who have low skilled jobs are the first to go. You know, and there's a lot of them, a lot of people in this position. And when you have a lot of people fucking starving and hungry every day, yeah, they don't think rationally. You know what I mean? And it could be a real big issue. But I don't think it's just that. You need to have universal education and health. It's a triple threat. You can't have one over the other. Okay. Well, you can't just have UBI, it won't work. You can't just have healthcare, it won't work. You just can't have education. You have to have all three of them, and they all have to feed into each other, right? And the reason why you would tax wealthier individuals is because they would basically keep the people from revolting. You know, that is the incentive for rich people if they didn't have an incentive before, right? And so it's like, what ends up happening is that, let's say I'm like I'm a kid born in a family of 4. My mom's a single parent. She works 3 jobs, right? And I'm raised by my older brother, and one of my older siblings is like a drug addict. So I have like a really bad draw of the hand. Okay, more and more people are being born in these types of bad hands, especially in America. You know, and we don't have support for these people. And it's a problem. It's really hard to get out of this situation. It's very challenging, you know? And it doesn't help that if you get sick, you can go broke, right? It doesn't help that education costs a lot of money, you know? And it doesn't help that your mom or whoever is your caregiver is working pretty much their whole life, you know? And so all these programs will help alleviate all of these issues, because if you have a bad luck, it still doesn't mean that you can't go to Harvard. You might not be able to go like right after high school, because you probably would also be born in like a really low income educational system, right? But at least you can go to community college, right? Because that would be free. And then at least you can go to maybe a better college, because again, that would be free. You would just have to get in by your merits, right? Like, are you good enough to go to this school? You know? And maybe like someone like my kids could probably go to Harvard after high school because they have a really good infrastructure for their education, right? Like if they really wanted to, they probably could. But this kid that I'm talking about who has like the really bad luck, it might take them 10 years after high school. You know, they may be in their 30s by the time they get to Harvard or whatever, but at least they can do it. It's there for them, right? Like it's, people always think about like compound interest. It's where it's like you keep doubling down on how much money you make, right? There's such a thing as compound debt. It's like the opposite direction. And to sympathize with those who are low income, that's what you're basically saying. Is like, I understand that this is a very fucking challenging situation to get out of, and we need to help you out. We got to help each other out, right? We're a community. And one way of explaining this is that, like, I went to a school in my local area, like in my community. It's a low income area, and none of these kids, like, I went to the high school and I did a talk, and none of these kids knew what concept art was at all. They didn't have like any shred of understanding that this was an actual job. You understand? They have no clue, you know? And some kids, I remember I was talking to some kids because they wanted to like do like after school program, whatever. They were saying like, you know, they were asking me if there was like drawing tools on like an iPad or something because they don't have a computer. Some of them didn't even have internet, you know? And I was just like, fuck, dude. Like the advantage of having the internet or just a working computer is huge, right? And we need to be able to like to help our fellow people out. And like I try to think that like being an artist is a great way to get out of these situations, you know, because I feel like most people are creative naturally. It's just beaten out of us, you know, or at least beaten out of most of us. The ones that were stubborn, they kept with it, right? But it's a good way out because you can like make your own video games, maybe, right? You can make your own comic book. You can make your own movies or TV shows. These are definitely possible as long as you have the tools that are available. You don't need to go to a formal education. It's really low cost of entry. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I'm a big fan of those programs, specifically of the pragmatic use of them. Now, how do you implement them? How do you actually get them into place? I don't know. You know, I'm not a economist, but to neglect the value of why we should probably start doing this, I think it's incredibly naive and very short-sighted. Very short-sighted, you know, because pulling yourself by the bootstraps is not, it's a myth. It doesn't work for everybody. Just some people don't have the access, you know. Like even my own father, if it wasn't for him, I might be a whole different person. And it's because he had to join the military. That's the only way out of his problem, and he did. And that's usually the way out in a lot of the American like low income infrastructure. Is most people who join the military are coming from. You don't have like a super rich, like snitty kid, right? That has everything they ever want. Like, so you know what? I want to serve the country. I want to go fight some wars that I don't really care about. You know, that just doesn't happen. You know, I'm sure sometimes, but not really. It's usually people that have like bad luck. And so my dad was like that. He went, he was also smart enough to decide to do something like computer engineering, right? And because of that, I was always surrounded by computers and technology. And because of that, I was able to be more tech savvy. And because you're more tech savvy, you have more advantages, that alone, right? And then, so when I decided to become a concept artist, it wasn't like I had to learn how to use a computer, you know? Like I already knew all that kind of stuff, right? I just needed to learn how to paint. And because of that, I got out, and then my kids have a better situation because of what my dad started. And I say that because my uncles and my aunts and my cousins on my dad's side are all still dirt poor. Some of them are in prison. You know, they all came from the same house. How come my dad got out? It wasn't like he just got lucky with just like being the one that joined the army. And like, no, they all could have, you know, but they didn't want to. And my dad joined the army because he had no other option, you know? And like, it was the whole Harvard situation again, the whole Harvard, getting to Harvard conundrum. You know, my dad is still working to this day because he can't do anything else other than this, right? And it took him many years to get like, we were poor until I was like in my teens. Then my dad started actually making money. Right. So think about it, like it took him like 25 years or something like this to actually make some money. Because when I was a kid, I remember he used to work 2 or 3 jobs still. Yeah, you know? And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of helping everybody out, not just because of the practical reasons that we were talking about earlier, but also just because it's the right thing to do, right? It's just smart to help each other out. Like we're a social species. We thrive on helping each other, not fighting with each other. Anyway, hopefully that gives you some perspective, in my opinion, on that kind of stuff. Yeah, the one of the main reasons why I'm trying to get really successful at game development is so I can teach people how to do it. You know, because if I can do it and I can be successful at it, then I can teach other people to do it, and it's a really good out. You know, just like I've done with concept art. I hope a lot of people do that. Any other questions?
I got a technical question.
Yeah, go for it.
I find for me, a lot of times when I'm working on a painting, rendering something, I feel like I have to let it sit after working on it for a period of time. I have to let it sit to kind of come back to it after a period of time to really be able to spot out all the mistakes, and because I find a lot of times I end up overpainting something if I just keep grinding on it. But a lot of times when you're on a tight schedule, it's a little bit hard to kind of just like be able to like let the piece kind of sit for a bit and come back to it like all refreshed. Is there any pointers you can give me or us about? I don't know if this is like just like an issue for me, or it's common for some folks too.
Can you simplify the question?
Oh yeah, basically I was just wondering, is there any other alternative options to when you're working on something and not I mean still being like a student with anatomy and stuff, a lot of times we're not able to spot out those like mistakes right away, but like when you come back to it after not looking at the piece for a bit, I find for me I'll be able to spot out those mistakes. But is there any like?
Yeah, so I got it. So you're basically saying like, how do I spot my problems? Because when you're not skilled, you can't really see them, right? That's why like someone like me is very valuable because I can see right through it usually, right? I do something called quality control. Okay, and what quality control essentially is that I just I will grab a image that I think is way better than mine, you know, and just kind of put next to my painting constantly, right? So like if I had like a character design I'm working on, and I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job, like you said, then I would go out of my way to find like an image that says everything that I wanted to say. It's kind of like what I was saying to Andreas earlier about like, go do some research of like the kind of stylistic look that you want, you know? Because a lot of times people will just shoot from the hip and they're not looking at any kind of helpful reference. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's what the reference is supposed to do. It's supposed to help you fill in the gaps of things that you don't understand. Okay? So if you're not doing that, right, if you're not looking at artwork that is way better than yours to constantly put you in check, then the walking away approach works obviously the best, you know? But like I said, I always, like for instance, when I started painting really detailed, I always look at art that I think is high quality so I can live up to that standard. You know what I mean? And what I like to do, oh yeah, flip horizontal is like always a good strategy, but that still falls into the conundrum of like, because you don't even really know what to correct sometimes. Flipping horizontal helps you with proportions and like overall shapes, but it doesn't fix like your anatomy and your ability to render appropriately, you know? And so, like I said, it's probably best that you get reference that's just made for you to know what the fuck you're messing up, you know? And like I said, I call it quality control images, because what it's supposed to do is keep the quality control. Make sense? And that's all that image should do, is just help you maintain quality. Make sense?
I have one.
Wait, did that help you out before we move on?
Yeah, definitely. Like, definitely. Like, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't use reference enough. Like they'll see someone like paint and they'll think, oh, you know, that person never uses reference. Now everybody uses reference. It's just some people have it like ingrained in their process, so they don't, or like the things that they're drawing are things that they already know how to draw, you know. So it's an illusion, you know. They're definitely using reference. It's just you don't see it as clearly. Cool. All right, what was the other question?
I was gonna ask one. I guess it might be a bit weird. I'm not particularly sure where I'm going with it, but as well, like when you look into ArtStation, like I feel like it's a not only portrayal of what's like appreciated in the industry and all of that, but it's some of it is like what I would call like an artist's artist, and it's something that other artists appreciate a lot, and it doesn't necessarily land jobs in the industry. And I don't know, like I was talking with a friend today about like one of those guys that is actually working in the industry, but like he was telling that basically he's not a concept artist, he's not an illustrator, he's like almost there hired because he can afford it for almost like inspirational purposes. But I was just, I thought maybe like if you notice it like on ArtStation, like and maybe just how to not end up there, because like so some of these like they go with crazy lengths with style and all of that, but like it's sometimes like so original that like a pure typical client would kind of not actually go with that.
Yeah, I don't know. You would have to give some specific examples, but I think I have an understanding of what you're talking about. A lot of what you're referring to, llama. The llama is ginormous. If I were to just keep him in there as he was, a lot of what you're talking about is true though. There is like artwork that is kind of a lie, you know. And my advice usually is that you should look at, if you want to like build a portfolio that gets jobs, you should look less on like what other artists are doing just without a filter, right? That's kind of the problem that I think I have with kind of you and your friends kind of like assertion, just like looking. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. This ruins the function. I don't want to spend. I'll just use it as reference. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Yeah, it'd just be better if I just painted it. So like what ends up happening is that, you know, you have to give things context. You can't just say this or that, you know. So for instance, you know, you make this point of like, you know, an artist's artist, and there's, like I said, there's truth to this. So what I would say is, well, I mean, who you're referring to, because there's some artists that are the artist and they make good strides in the industry, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, okay, so it can't just be an artist's artist is the problem. It should be more than that, right? And really what it is, what I'm trying to explain, is that the context. So what's the context? So let me give you a good example of what I think is kind of closer to your point, right? So if you see somebody who does like more of like a stylized artwork, that's usually an artist's thing, and that is going to be harder in essence to get jobs with, because it's a very specific style, right? But going back to the context-based stuff, if a studio is looking for that style, then you're in the good. But you have to also acknowledge you're just not going to work for other studios. It's just how it
Yeah.
is. So for instance, like if I were to do a Pixar style, then I'll have a better chance of getting a job at Pixar, but maybe not on the next Pacific Rim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like the next horror movie, right? Or reverse, like my style is pretty clear what it is, right? And so it's like, you know, it'll be really weird if like Pixar calls me up and they're like, hey man, we're working on a new movie and we want you on it. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys working on? You know? And they'll be like, oh yeah, we're thinking about taking Monsters Inc. and then turning it into a horror film. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well then I can see why you guys want to work with me. Let's do it. You know, it's like kind of weird, but I'm down. You know, but that's not going to happen, is it? You know, and so like, but like my stuff is also kind of bizarre and like has like there's some really random ass shit in there. But some people like that, you know, and I'm not. When I first started out, I didn't necessarily build a portfolio like this. I just built it recently because I can afford to. You know, most of you guys cannot, right? At least for now, but it's temporary. You know, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't think that just because you can't do it now, you can't do it ever. You know, like once you establish a real career, you can do all sorts of things right after that, right? Like that's what I'm doing now, right? And so I don't really care about my portfolio nearly as much as I used to because I know that I have prestige now, right? People know me for me now, like I have a thing, right? But sometimes that thing that I think is, you know, whatever, nobody's really going to care about my thing. People start emailing me like, hey, you know, that thing that you do, AJ, we want a piece of that thing. You know what I mean? And that's how I end up doing like the Love, Death, and Robots, right? Because they specifically wanted my weird ass shit, you know.
Yeah.
And so I usually encourage people to just focus on the immediate solutions to your problems, but at the same time, be forward thinking, think ahead, right? Always think ahead, and like it's not a lot of time to get really good at a very specific field. Okay, it doesn't take you too long to become a good concept artist. It just doesn't. But some people feel like it's going to take forever. No, if you just are patient, it will happen. A good example of this would be like what I'm doing now. Like I spent like 5 or 6 years learning how to do concept art. Now I'm learning how to do game dev, right? And there's already people doing really good indie games. I was like, I'm not the first one, right? I'm not the only one. There's literally thousands of games uploaded every day on like Steam that are really good, and some are really terrible, but there's a lot of them. And so, oh, hold on, guys, 1 second. All right, sorry. So just focusing on focusing on like just like people's work alone is not enough. You got to look at everything. Okay, so let's do like a little bit of a thought experiment. Okay, it's my favorite thing to do. You ready? Yeah, see, look at this garbage ass environment. It's turning out all right. Okay, look how much
I have a question when I can jump in, if it's all right.
no.
Fine,
Right.
I'm going.
Yeah, you'll be the last question actually. But so this artist thing, right? So don't think of it so much like that. ArtStation's really good. It's a really good website. It has a lot of great artwork on there. Here's how you should approach this. Okay, let's say you're an art director, right? And you're looking for a new artist, and you're looking for more like League of Legends type styled artwork. Looking at this page, this front page, there should already be people that stand out in terms of who we should try to hire, right? Maybe that guy, maybe this person, maybe this person, maybe that person, maybe this person, right? We'll just start with that. But I'm ignoring a lot of the other stuff, ain't I?
Yeah.
But does that mean all the other stuff is garbage? No, right? It's clearly like, it's just different, you know? So like, okay, this is pretty good. This is how a recruiter would think. They look at this person's art. They say, yeah, this guy's pretty consistent. Usually the people that have good artwork are relatively consistent. They usually have one theme to their work, and it's pretty clear that that's why they're that good. So I'd be like, you know what, let's give Rudy a call, you know? Indonesia, dope. Let's look at Nicola. Yep, same thing, pretty consistent. So we probably would email this person as well, right? Let's look at Constantine. Okay, looks like they already are professional. They've done stuff for Blizzard. Maybe they're already working there. Now they're just freelance. But, you know, yeah, let's give them a call too. This looks like a studio. This is not in the realm of what we're looking for. It's not that it's bad. It's just not what we're looking for. So we're not going to email them. Let's look at Fox 3D. So you're also looks like you're going against like studios. Studios post their own work, right? Freelancers, freelance art studios. But again, like none of this is what we want. So really, it's just these three, right? So we would email them, you know, and then go from there, right? That's pretty much how it works. So now let's say we're going in the opposite direction. We're going more realistic, you know, and we're focusing mostly on design. Like we want to have good designers. So maybe this is good. Maybe this might be good. That looks more like a 3D thingy. Maybe this guy's going to be good. Maybe this guy's going to be good. And 3D characters. Or sorry, character design. That's what we're looking for. Okay, this guy might have what we want. Now this is illustration, but those are still pretty cool.
My favorites.
See, I'm trying to find like character design, not illustrations.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like looking at this person objectively. That's how I'm looking. I'm like, okay, I think I've seen enough. This person's worth a call. So let's give him a call. This person is not worth calling. Why not? Because they only have 2 pieces of artwork. These could just be outliers. They're good though, but we're not going to call them. And so then let's look at this person, see what they got. So this is pretty cool design, but is that all they can do? Super loosey-goosey? Because that might not be what we want. Oh no, they can totally do all sorts of illustration stuff, but really what we're about is character design. So let's see if we can find any. That's pretty good stuff there. Even though it was an illustration, we're not looking at the illustration, we're looking at the characters within that illustration. You know? Yeah. No, we probably keep on looking, right? It's not that they're bad. It's just they're not good enough. But look, you know, here's a cheat. If I'm a recruiter, go to their likes. See if I can find someone within people that they like. But it's not as simple as this person's going to get a job or that person's going to get a job. Because even in this likes, right, I'm still trying to find good designers. This might be good. Even though it's not rendered, it's actually cool designs. Maybe it's what we're looking for, right? Do you see my point?
Yeah.
And I'm coming at a position as a recruiter. I'm not thinking of any other way, you know? Like we're working on a sci-fi, like militaristic game. This is going to be useful, you know? Or a movie, whatever. But does it mean that the other stuff that we looked at was bad? No, right? It just means it's just different, you know? And then there's obviously going to be artwork like maybe like this, which is just like a really nice drawing. This absolutely does not have value in a lot of ways. Okay?
Yep.
But this is like to your point of the artist. Like this is a cool painting. Cool. You know?
Yep.
But if I were to give this person a critique, they would just need more portfolio pieces. This is a portfolio piece. Right? In fact, this person would have been a good candidate for the League of Legends kind of art hypothetical that we did. Right? But
Yeah.
my only critique is that they only have a few. They don't have a lot. So it could be just, again, this person doesn't have enough experience developing this type of stuff too often. They have too many studies. They're dope, but there's too many of them. You know, studies only make other artists feel excited, right? It's not like I'm working on a project. It's like we need like a half naked man, and you happen to be able to draw him the way that we want. It just doesn't work. Okay. And so that's the way you should think about it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully that helps you out. Okay. Last but not least, what's up, bud?
Okay, so this goes back to what you were saying earlier about game design. And I've always had an interest in game design. And I was just wondering, are there many concept artists in the industry that try to bridge the gap? Because you're the only one that I sort of know of that's, actively trying to make their own game.
It's just because I'm more talkative, but there's plenty of them. One of the biggest ones
That's
would
good
be
to know.
one of them would be King Lee.
Yeah.
King Lee just released his Towers game, but he also made a game. He just made a game. Here, I'll put it so you can watch this later. But yeah, this is we'll just kind of skip through it. This is a game that was developed by like 6 people, I think.
Nice.
But he spent a lot of his own money to make this happen, and he already made a game before that. So he used his leverage of being a good concept artist, making money from that, investing in himself, which is good, smart. He's not only one. Nick Carver is another one.
Yeah.
Good buddy of mine. We talk game dev a lot, but he's always making cool ass games and shit. He has this one game called Shadow Drop. He has a problem not finishing that shit though. It's such a cool idea. He let me play me and my buddies play the beta. It's basically hide and seek. It's like a co-op, or it's essentially like couch multiplayer. We're all playing the same game at the same time.
So local multiplayer. Yeah.
Yeah, local multiplayer. Yeah. But it's like hide and seek. So you're like one of these characters, and
that's cool.
just trying to find another. You're trying to find your what you call it, the other player.
Yeah.
And so like you have to try to simulate the behavior of the AI. Like you're like walking and you're like kind of doing like stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But see like this collision right there, that's pretty obvious, right? That's the player.
Yeah.
Like, so is this guy coming to him? Like who's coming to me?
It sounds fun with some beer. Yeah.
Yeah. And then did someone get killed over here? Oh shit. Oh no. Oh, another motherfucker got killed. Yeah, and so this idea, and you can do like smoke bombs. You can like do little. You can act like you're talking. Like it was cool, man. Like we played it, and I was like, dude, what the hell, motherfucker.
Nice. Yeah, it seemed to me like a lot of the same skills apply to both disciplines. So I was just curious whether in the industry there are several people doing that or not.
Yeah, I think the advantage that we have over most indie developers is that we're artistically inclined, and that is the hardest part of any game development.
Yeah.
Game design and game programming is actually not as challenging as it appears. It's still challenging, but not nearly as challenging as having a unique style to your look or just having a very believable artistic vision. Like I spent like here, let me see if I can pop this open. I spent the better half of yesterday working on this. Let's see if it won't chug on you. It will be smooth on my end, but it might be super slow on your end. I'm gonna pause the recording here. It's still top seeks. Top seeks, bro. Failed to load. Whatever. So like I've been working mostly on like lighting and camera work. You see that character there?
No, I could just still see Photoshop at the moment.
What?
It's the robots. They've taken over.
Oh, hold on. I know what's going on. Hold on. It's because
Cool. Thanks, man.
that's the meaning of life. I just turned the recording back on, so it's gonna be like empty, and then I'm like, and now that's the meaning of content.
Mind blown.
Yeah. But hopefully that gives you some insight.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know that there's people in the industry that are doing, you know, a bit of both there.
Yeah, it's hard regardless. It's like, even though I said it's easier to do the programming, it's relatively speaking. You know, I'm not trying to say that
Yeah.
it's easy. I'm just saying, like, in terms of becoming a good artist versus becoming a good programmer, ironically, becoming a good artist is actually much harder. It really is.
One thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
Like you did it yourself, artist first, and then you started to seek other disciplines afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I do mostly what I preach. So, and that's one of those
Yeah.
things I preach. Anyway, so
Cool.
hopefully you guys enjoyed this turning this garbage thing that was done by that and then turning it into a painting. That's the future, my friends. It's going to be like, right now it's this environment stuff, but eventually it's going to be characters too. I can't wait. Anyway, peace out, friends. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys as soon as I talk to you guys. Laters. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.